As promised this morning, one of the candidates for Lafayette City-Parish President, Joel Robideaux, joining us in studio this morning. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Bernie.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great.
So we're at the final countdown now.
Yeah, when?
I don't know. Maybe this weekend sometime?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah,
Don't
Saturday's a
forget.
big day, yeah. Yeah, folks, don't forget, Saturday is your responsibility to go out there and vote. All right, so we have a variety of different topics and questions we want to talk with you about, Mr. Robideaux. First being about, making this transition and you've been in the State House for a while and, there have been a lot of issues to tackle and accomplish there. And then now running in this particular race to become the next Lafayette City Parish President. So we love to know what really motivates people. So what was it about this that you looked at this and said, this is the job that I'd like to do? What were you thinking? What was the thinking going on there?
Well, it's a couple things. I mean, first, I was raised here, graduated high school, college here, and just like I think most of the listeners and folks that live here, we love this place. I mean, and so if you can be a part of it in any way, part of its future, part of its vision, I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to, play a role in that. But as it relates to the service in Baton Rouge, there you're one of 144. There's a governor and his entire cabinet. So in order to really affect change, it becomes pretty frustrating. I mean, as one of 144, you work together, you try to build consensus, you try to get your ideas heard and debated, but ultimately it's a difficult process. It's not as broke as Washington, but it's 144 folks with different ideas about what's the most important, and then of course there's the executive branch, the governor's office, that really determines what most of the debate is going to be about. And locally, you can affect change. You can do a whole lot more. There's 9 councilmen. There's the administration, the position that I'm running for, city parish president. And I just think you can see results a lot easier. You can make a lot of things happen a lot quicker. And just the attraction of being a part of that and being able to move this community forward was too good to pass up.
How are you, as you're talking to people, you and Dee Stanley have gone through how many forums?
I think it's only been 18.
I think only 18, huh?
Yeah. We were shooting for 20. We couldn't quite make it.
Oh, man.
You should have had us on the radio together. We could have counted that as one.
What was I thinking? Yeah. So, there have been a lot of opportunities for folks to hear from you and to hear what your kind of vision is for Lafayette. What do you think it is that separates you and Mr. Stanley, and what are you hoping people will pay attention to before they vote on Saturday and when it comes to Saturday?
Yeah, we're similar in a lot of ways, and as are most of the folks in Lafayette. But there are definitely some differences, and my focus has been on the roads and the traffic and trying to figure out a way to make that happen. I know we just at State Bond Commission passed a bond issue for Lafayette, so that's going to help. We'll be able to have some money early in next year start flowing in to be able to do some work. But the truth of the matter is a lot of the roads are state roads, and people need to understand when we say state roads. Johnson Street's a state road. Well, it was the Abbeville Highway, and it connected these two communities that were far from the cities that they are now. And we built the city up around this state road, so you can't expect the state to just come in and say, hey, that's our road, we're going to take care of it. When you built your city around it, they're going to look for participation. And so I think it's important that we also leverage the relationships that we have in Baton Rouge and make sure that those elected officials that serve this community understand what the needs are and what state roads, take priority, and go there and make sure that we get every penny of our tax dollars back that we can to help with that problem. And so between that, the bond issue, I think that'll get us a lot closer to where we need to be. There's never going to be enough money to pave every gravel road that needs to be paved, to fix every pothole as quickly as everybody wants it fixed. But, I pride myself on being honest with the voters, telling them where I think the challenges are and listening to what they tell me the challenges are, and roads and traffic comes up. It doesn't matter where you are in this parish.
With the unincorporated areas, though, you have a lot of folks there because what ends up happening is, if a big business moves in to an unincorporated area, then one of the municipalities says, hey, oh, look, a prime piece of property. They're going to bring in a lot of revenue, and they're going to want to snap it up right away. They're going to want to annex it and get that revenue. So it's left the unincorporated areas with not much of a tax base. How do you think that can be remedied? How would it be remedied under your watch as city parish president?
Well, there's a couple different ways to look at that. Obviously, if Lafayette geographically is a very small parish comparatively to the other parishes, but if everything was annexed, then every one of the municipalities would have responsibility for those roads and what they've annexed. Up until that point, you're going to have the pains of growth, which I can tell you a lot of parishes in this state would trade that problem for the problem that they currently face. And we've been blessed. We've got sales tax revenues that have increased significantly over the last decade. Our parish property taxes and city property taxes have increased significantly, and so we've got revenue that can be used to help. But ultimately, it's just setting what the priorities are going to be and figuring out what's the fair and equitable way for the municipalities to share in the shortfalls of the parish budget, and that's not easy because you're asking people to look at the amount of money that they have and to figure out how to spend it in a way that's fair and equitable. But I think it can be done. I think Lafayette's a community that really appreciates the effort to come up with consensus and to get along and figure stuff out. They don't ask, to me, the voters don't ask for a whole lot. Mm-hmm. They ask for the roads and the traffic, the drainage, the public safety. They ask for us to act like adults and come up with solutions and not have all the fights and bickering. And outside of that, they just want to be left alone, which makes it a great and easy place to serve, to be a public servant. So, ultimately, we're going to have to get all the municipalities in a room. We'll have to get the councilmen, both the parish councilmen and the local councilmen, kind of lay it all out there and say, look, let's see figure out a way. You can adjust the allocations. That's been done already to the detriment of the unincorporated areas. And so, as a CPA, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to dig through it, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to find every nickel where it's being spent and make sure that it's being done in the most logical and fair way. So I wish I could wave a magic wand and say, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to have all the money we need. That's just not reality. Mm-hmm.
How do you think it's going to go over with folks in those municipalities saying, well, our city parish president kind of wants us to come in and kind of pitch in with some of these areas? Would that be a hard sell, do you think? Will it take a long period of time?
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be a hard sell, and it'll have to be based on a bunch of other things. If we looked at that issue and that issue alone, then probably not. But, the whole model for parks and recreation has changed now that Youngsville and Broussard have brought in these incredible parks into their cities and their municipalities. And so, parks and recreation is part of the parish budget. But there's going to be underutilization of a lot of these parks that have been in the budget for a long, long time with the new parks coming on board. So there's a lot of things to look at. Like I said, though, none of it's going to be easy, but I think there's some possibilities there to help the parish budget out and at the same time give the municipalities all some victories.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you about this thought, because it just made me think about it when you're talking about all the municipalities. You had kind of hinted at this. Do you think it would be possible, and do you think it'd be something that would be wise to do, where the municipalities sit down, excuse me, and decide, you know what, we're going to figure out an equitable way to go ahead and figure out how we put the rest of the unincorporated areas into certain municipalities? Do you think that might be an active idea that you could get some of those folks to buy into? Because, that way, if it is annexed out to each of the municipalities, in a fair way, maybe then it just leaves the responsibility with each of those councils and those mayors.
Yeah, that would be a difficult thing because of the cost associated with annexing places that have a lot of roads and have a lot of drainage issues that, don't have the development, don't have the tax base. But, you could look at the parish budget and then say, okay, but we're going to allocate, those dollars to to you if you're willing to annex it. And so it's important that we all get in a room and start to try to figure this thing out going forward. I'm not naive. I don't think we're going to all leave there, hugging and saying we got a solution. It's been there the whole time, and now we have it. But there's going to be new councilmen. There's new folks that have been elected to the other municipalities, and so I think anytime that there's a change and there's a new day, I think you can accomplish a lot of things that maybe weren't able to be accomplished prior to that.
Mm-hmm. All right, coming up now on 623, we do have to take a break real quick here. When we come back, we'll talk more on the issue of roads, and we'll get into drainage, of course, and then we're going to talk about taxes, the dirty three-letter word. I guess I should just say tax, though. So we'll get into that coming up as well. Joel Robideaux is our guest for this hour. He is one of the candidates for Lafayette City-Parish President, and our conversation continues with him on the way. They're going to do Tomorrow Seize the Deal. And y'all, if you could smell in here this morning, it is divine. Keno, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, so now you've got some interesting twists on some favorites that you have, I think you're going to make some new classics. So what all did you bring?
We have we're featuring now a hash brown boudin ball with a little potato shavings, a little cheese, and a little bit of South-End's famous seasoning.
Ooh.
So great for breakfast, great for after.
Yeah.
In the evenings, whatever.
Well, like I said, you combine some of my favorite, breakfast items in there: boudin, cheese, and hash browns.
It's all in one.
I never knew they could go together, but they do.
It's all in one, sure.
Oh my gosh! And what else? Okay, so tell me about this crackling.
We not long ago we started doing a spicy ball crawfish flavored crackling.
Wow.
And if you like ball crawfish, it's got the texture,
good flavor, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Oh my!
And now that crawfish is out of season, you see we can.
Oh yeah, you can still have that.
The Cajun way, we'll figure out something. We'll figure out something.
So how long have you had South End Mart?
Matter of fact, there's 6 years this month. We're celebrating opening. The store's been there for 40 years now.
Wow.
But that's 6 years we're in business.
That you all been owning it and doing this, yeah?
Got all kind of fresh meats, cold beer, and plenty of boudin balls and cracklings.
He's like singing to us. That's almost like singing. It's a beautiful medley of food and deliciousness. So let me ask you, what time do y'all open, like during the weekdays, and what about the weekends?
During the week, we're doing 7 to 7, and on Sundays 8 to 5.
8 to 5 on Sundays.
And also on Sundays we have a fantastic barbecue. Anytime after 10 o'clock we have
the plates are ready, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the address and how do we get there?
We're located at 7212 Johnson, which is 3.5 miles south of Acadiana Mall.
Okay, 3.5 miles. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, that's a perfect.
If you get to Maurice, you went about 1.5 miles too far.
Too far.
You have to turn around and come back and get you some good stuff.
I was going to say, yeah. You don't want to have to go to Maurice and slow down. Sure. So, all right. So tomorrow is the Seize the Deal. So you're going to spend $12.50 and get $25 worth of all this great food. So it's your opportunity to seize this and get in on this. Hey, we have to say a big thank you because this has pretty much made our morning. Now that's a breakfast.
Great.
Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. All right. Coming up now on 6:35, time now for a look at headlines. It is now 6:36, 68 degrees here at the KPEL studios. Topping national and international headlines, Hillary Clinton will answer questions about Benghazi before a House committee today. Clinton was Secretary of State in 2012 when a terrorist attack killed 4 Americans at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Joe Biden, well, he will not be throwing his hat into the ring. The vice president announcing in the White House Rose Garden yesterday that he is not seeking the presidency because he is still grieving the passing of his son, Beau. A New Mexico police officer in critical condition after being shot during a traffic stop yesterday. Albuquerque Police Chief Gordon Eden said the officer was wearing a body camera that showed a taser was used during the altercation. The suspect is identified as 34-year-old Donovan Lyman. Police say they're actively searching for the man. Crowley police searching for a man wanted in connection with a Sunday morning shooting there after the Rice Festival. A warrant has been issued for 19-year-old Jermaine Washington Jr. for first-degree homicide and first-degree attempted homicide. They say the man is described as a black male, 6'1", 190 pounds, with long black locks. His last known address on Neighbor Street in Welsh. Crowley police say the man should be considered armed and dangerous. Yesterday, they arrested 23-year-old Jonathan Bro of Crowley in connection with that case. The Breaux Bridge Police Department is asking for help in identifying two people who were in a photo at the Family Dollar on Reese Street. Now, the two are wanted for questioning regarding a theft that happened in the store. Anyone with information on either of the people is urged to call the Breaux Bridge Police Department. Kenny Ruffin arrested yesterday in Lafayette for violating sex offender registration laws in Lafayette and West Baton Rouge parishes. According to the Attorney General, Buddy Caldwell, Ruffin was required to register as a sex offender after his release of a 2007 conviction of indecent behavior with juveniles. The latest job report for Louisiana shows continuous growth in the state overall, but major losses continue in the oil and gas industry. Louisiana Workforce Commission Executive Director Kurt Isink says despite over-the-year gains from September of last year to this year, the mining and logging sector, which includes oil and gas, lost 1,200 jobs in the last month and 8,800 jobs in the last year. He says the two bright spots on the report include Baton Rouge and Lake Charles, both areas setting growth records. Coming up now on 6:38, we've got weather and traffic coming up. 6:45 as we continue our conversation with Joel Robideaux joining us in the studio, of course, one of the candidates for Lafayette City-Parish president. Sir, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And as we continue our conversation, so a lot of people looking at Lafayette, the unincorporated areas, plus the other municipalities, a lot of people are worried that when we get into a new administration that there would be talk of taxes. Kind of want to get your thoughts on, we know there's so much that needs to be done with roads and bridges, drainage. But nobody wants to tax themselves anymore. I'm sure you don't either, but are you just going to keep an open mind, or where do you sit with the idea of what we need to do potentially to raise some revenue in our community?
Well, and that is one of the other differences that came out during the debates is, we had the whole airport tax model,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, well, it's a good model if, in fact, it's for one project, one time, and it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't be willing to just jump back in and say, okay, now this is the next project. Let's pass a tax again. And my opponent said, no, we kind of need to strike while the iron's hot and look, it worked, so let's continue down that path and do whatever the next big project is that the community buys into. I feel like we do need to figure out what that is, but you're going to be competing with the school board that wants to go to the voters with the tax. You're going to be competing with a lot of other interests, and so you need to come up with what is the next project, and I don't think that's something you need to rush into. The voters have told me over and over again that they like the fact that I'm a CPA, that I'm going to comb through the budget, that I'm going to look at the tax revenues that we have, see where it's being spent, spend it on roads, bridges, traffic, public safety, drainage first, see what we have left, see what's available, and then and only then, and once you convince the voters that, all right, this is our only option, to me that's when you should go back to the voters. But that's not going to be anytime soon after the election. I mean, there's a lot of work, I think, that needs to be done to both build trust with the constituency out there that you've done everything that you can to pay for these important projects before you go back to them and ask for additional taxes. Okay.
What about, do you think, I started with this question on Monday with our candidates. I really like it because I think it gives the candidate the opportunity to dispel any myths that might be out there. Perception is reality. We know that, right? And so whether it's the fault of the media or us talking around water coolers, or I think it's just human nature maybe. People have one perception of an individual maybe, or a couple. But do you think there's one big misperception out there about you that's being said that you don't agree with? And then is there one thing that you think the voters might be hanging on to that is, straight on correct about you?
Well, I think that, I've done everything in my power to run a positive campaign. There's nothing that's come out of my campaign that hasn't been positive about what challenges we face, and let's address them. But that's issue driven, and so we've worked very hard. And then we got blamed both in a robocall from my opponent, then in the paper by his supporters, somehow saying that we were to blame for this one poll that went out to a few hundred people. And I called D and told him, that I have nothing to do with this. But still it persisted that, the passive aggressive attacks, that somehow I have something to do with it. That would be the only thing that's frustrating. But I'm a big boy. I mean, I've been in office. I understand. There's going to be rumors.
PAC money or something? Or?
It was some outside PAC money that did a poll.
It was a push poll. There was
lots of
discussion.
I think there's been a lot of discussion about it, and again, a poll goes to what 500-600 people, but they did a robocall to 20,000 homes, basically labeling it as my candidacy. So much for a clean campaign, and that was frustrating. But we just I didn't respond. We're just focusing on our message, our positive message, and going forward. And that's the only thing. It gets frustrating, but, you can't respond to everything. And other than that, campaigning can be a great experience. I mean, you meet people all over the parish. You hear stories. You get to know folks. It's almost like a history lesson for the community that you live in.
Sure, everybody's perspective is a little different.
And so for all the negative stuff that can come with it, and the stuff that some of the media writes about you and those kinds of things, I take that stuff with a grain of salt. I focus on the positive stuff, and it's been a great experience.
All right. As we're kind of wrapping up here, because we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left, we always like to kind of give that opportunity for the last 60 seconds or so to the candidate, just to talk to the voters and the people listening about what you want them to think about as they're going to the polls on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I love this place, as we all do. I look forward to being able to help lead the Lafayette into the future. It's a great place. There's definitely been pockets of the parish that feel neglected, that feel like their voices have not been heard, and I get that. I've listened to them and I understand. I think there's a lot more we can do. We talk about all these best of lists, and that's because of the people, and that's as it relates to our culture and our people. But I've made it a commitment and part of my campaign that I want to add the roads and traffic to our best of list. So when people come here, they say, man, that's how we need our roads and traffic to be in the community that I'm from. If we could be more like Lafayette in that regard with draining and with public safety, I think we can improve. And honestly, addressing and being honest about challenges that exist, I don't think is being negative. It's just saying, look, we've got some areas we can do better on, and let's work towards that. And so it's resonated well as I've gone around this community. People want to know that their voices are being heard, that the focus is not just on one particular area that's booming. They want to know that they have a voice at City Hall that understands the issues throughout the parish, and I'm that person, and it's going well.
Joel Robideaux has been our guest, one of the candidates for Lafayette City-Parish President. Sir, thank you very much for all of the time this morning. We appreciate it, and of course, we shall talk to you on Saturday.
All righty. Thank you all very much.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
the opportunity.